I never thought that trip would change my life forever. What started as a fun getaway turned into a desperate fight for survival. I was alone, stranded on an island, with no food, no water, and the eerie feeling that something was lurking in every shadow. But there was one thing that saved my life, and here I'll tell you how I did it. It all began on a ship sailing across the Pacific Ocean. The storm caught us off guard, and in the chaos, a massive wave threw me overboard. I tried to hold on to something, but the sea swallowed me without mercy. I screamed for help, but no one heard me, and I watched helplessly as the ship disappeared without me. For hours, I struggled against the currents until, on the horizon, I saw an island. Using the last of my strength, I swam toward it. When my feet finally touched the sand, I knew I had survived, or so I thought. The island seemed deserted, but something in the air put me on edge. The wind whispered through the trees, as if warning me that I didn't belong there. I walked through the dense vegetation, searching for water, food, some kind of shelter. But what I found was far worse. Footprints in the dirt caught my attention. They looked like a bear's tracks, but something felt off. Confusion turned to unease. I wasn't alone. Someone, or something, was on this island. I had to be careful, or I'd end up in serious danger. I hid behind some bushes and spotted an old, weathered cabin. It looked abandoned, but a faint light flickered inside. Cautiously, I crept closer and peeked through a crack in the wooden walls. What I saw made my blood run cold. Human skeletons hanging from the ceiling, tied with old ropes. A murmur, a sound behind me. I spun around instantly, but there was nothing. Had I imagined it? Fear took hold of me. This island wasn't uninhabited. Something, or someone, was protecting it. And I had just trespassed into its domain. I ran without direction, hearing footsteps behind me. I couldn't see my pursuer, but I could feel its presence getting closer. In my panic, I reached a cliff. There was no escape. Jump into the lake and risk drowning? Or face whatever was hunting me? Suddenly, an inhuman scream shattered the silence. I shut my eyes and leaped into the void. The freezing water hit me like a wall, but I swam as fast as I could, not daring to look back. All I wanted was to get as far away from that cursed place as possible. The current carried me to a small cove hidden among the rocks. Exhausted, I crawled onto the shore and collapsed onto the damp sand. The sun was setting, painting the sky in an unsettling blood-red hue. I knew I couldn't stay there. Night on this island promised to be even more dangerous than the day. With the last of my strength, I built a small shelter between some large rocks, using branches and leaves to conceal myself. Darkness fell like a heavy shroud, and with it came sounds I had never heard before. Sharp, high-pitched shrieks that didn't belong to any known animal, rhythmic crunching like bones grinding together, and the most disturbing of all, something that sounded like distant chanting in an incomprehensible language. I didn't sleep. I didn't dare. Every shadow seemed to move on its own. At some point during the night, I saw lights weaving between the trees, small, flickering torches forming hypnotic patterns. I bit down on my fist to keep from screaming, when one of them passed so close to my hiding spot that I could feel its unnatural heat. At dawn, thirst and hunger forced me to move. I found a small stream of crystal-clear water, but as I approached, I noticed something strange. Tiny dead insects floated along the edges, and the nearby stones were covered in a deep purple moss I had never seen before. Even so, desperation drove me to drink. The water had a metallic taste, but it temporarily quenched my thirst. As I explored in search of food, I stumbled upon something even more disturbing. Traps. Human-made traps scattered throughout the forest. Some old and rusted, others unsettlingly new. Nets suspended between trees, pits covered with leaves, hidden snares among the undergrowth. Someone had been hunting on this island. Animals or people? On my second day, the fever hit me. I didn't know if it was the water, some plant I had touched, or simply the constant terror wearing down my defenses. My skin burned, and the hallucinations began. I saw shadows stretching unnaturally, trees that seemed to breathe, and worst of all, human figures watching me from a distance, disappearing whenever I tried to focus on them. In a rare moment of clarity, I decided I needed a tool, a weapon, anything to defend myself. I tore off a thick branch and, using a sharp stone, spent hours carving an improvised spear. My hands bled from the effort, but fear was a powerful motivator. Armed with my crude weapon, I ventured toward a small inland lake I had spotted earlier. The water was an impossibly bright turquoise, almost glowing. Strange plants with vibrantly colored fruits grew along the shore, but I didn't dare try them. In the water, I saw fish, small, silver, darting nervously in schools. With a mix of patience and desperation, I waited motionless until one swam close enough. My first attempt missed. The second did too. On the third try, the spear pierced a fish large enough for a meal. I cooked it over a small fire I started by rubbing dry wood together, a survival technique I had seen in documentaries but never imagined I'd need to use. The fish had an oddly sweet taste, almost as if it had been marinated in honey. My stomach growled with hunger, but something made me stop after a few bites. A primal instinct warned me that something was wrong with the meat. That night, the hallucinations got worse. I saw faces in the trees, heard voices calling my name. The most terrifying moment came when I saw one of my shipmates, the same one I had watched sail away on the boat, standing among the trees, grinning with an inhuman expression, his eyes completely black. "Come with us," he seemed to say without moving his lips. "We're all here. We're all part of the island now." I crawled away from the vision, sobbing in terror. Hours later, when the fever finally broke, I found strange markings on my body, symbols as if someone had drawn on my skin while I was delirious. I tried to wash them off, but they seemed etched beneath the surface, like fresh tattoos. On the third day, desperation pushed me back into exploration. I needed to find a way out, a way to signal for help. Anything. That's when I saw the skeleton cabin again, but this time from a different angle. And I noticed something I had missed before, a kind of basement or cellar beneath the main structure. Fear told me to run, but curiosity and necessity were stronger. Maybe there were supplies, tools, something useful. I approached with my spear raised, every nerve in my body pulled tight like a violin string. The basement door was slightly open, as if inviting me in. The stench that seeped out was nauseating. Dampness, decay, and something else. Something sickly sweet and metallic that I couldn't identify. I stepped down onto the wooden stairs, which groaned under my weight, threatening to give way at any moment. What I found below changed everything I thought I knew about this island. The walls were covered in symbols similar to the ones marked on my skin. Ancient drawings depicted half-human, half-animal creatures devouring what looked like shipwreck survivors. And the most horrifying sight of all, at the center of the room stood a stone altar, stained dark brown, with carved channels leading down to a basin in the floor. In the corners, there were piles of personal belongings, watches, rings, wallets, passports from different nationalities and time periods. Some looked decades old, others disturbingly new. Faded photographs, yellowed letters, half-written diaries, relics of lives cut short by the island. I was so absorbed in examining those objects that I didn't notice when the basement door slammed shut. Panic flooded me as I frantically searched for another way out. There was none. I was trapped in that chamber of horrors. What felt like hours passed as I pounded on the door, screaming until my throat burned. No one answered. Eventually, exhausted, I gave up and curled into a corner, trying to hold on to my sanity. That's when I heard it, the sounds above me. Slow, heavy footsteps, like something massive struggling to move. A rhythmic dragging, a soft tapping. Then silence, and then a new smell seeped in. Smoke. They were burning the cabin, with me inside. Desperation gave me strength I didn't know I had. Using my spear as a lever, I attacked the rotting floorboards until they gave way, carving out a hole just big enough for me to squeeze through. I crawled through the damp earth, ignoring the roots and stones scraping my skin, moving blindly in the darkness until I finally felt fresh air. I emerged several yards away from the cabin, now a towering inferno. Flames lit up the night, casting flickering shadows across the surrounding forest. And among those shadows, I saw them. Figures moving, watching me. They weren't human. Not entirely. I ran like I had never run before. No direction. Just away. Away from the fire. Away from those creatures. Adrenaline numbed the pain of my wounds, the exhaustion weighing down my body. There was only one instinct left. To escape. To survive. At sunrise on the fourth day, I stumbled upon the most unexpected sight. A small boat, half hidden among the bushes near the shore. Old, but intact. The oars were worn, but usable. I didn't stop to question the strange coincidence. I didn't wonder who had left a boat just when I needed it most. I just dragged it to the water and rowed with everything I had, leaving that cursed island behind. Hours later, a merchant ship rescued me, and I made it back home. But I know one thing for sure. Whatever lives on that island is still there, waiting for its next victim. The island almost killed me, but it also showed me how thin the line is between reason and fear. Surviving a place like that isn't just about strength. It's about wit, control, and not losing your mind. But tell me, do you think you could have escaped a place like that? Or would you have gone insane like those who came before me? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.